everyone, my name is Erica. I'm a keeper here in the Domain and Tundra area. I'm in here with our raccoons. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. One thing here at the Toronto Zoo is that it's our mission to connect people, animals, and conservation science to fight extinction. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our raccoons and show you kind of how we do that with them. First I'm just going to put a little bit of enrichment. So enrichment is just something we use to kind of encourage natural behaviors. I've got a few different devices here, so I'm going to kind of do it throughout my talk. So that's why sometimes you'll see stuff that you might think is garbage in some of the exhibits, but these guys are really smart, so we want to try and give them a bunch of different things that will encourage them to kind of work at the devices and encourage those natural behaviors. These guys are very smart, so we try and do a lot of different things to try and encourage that. My aim is not the best, but they will get it anyways. So we do have 3 raccoons here in this exhibit. We have Elora, we also have Fergus and Micro. Elora and Fergus came to us together. They were abandoned, so when they came here they were really tiny. So that's why they actually look very similar. They are actually litter mates. A few years later, we ended up getting Micro, who came here as an injured raccoon, and so that's kind of why we have our raccoons here at the zoo. Some of you might be wondering why we have a raccoon exhibit. These guys are pretty interesting to still exhibit. A lot of people know raccoons and see them in a more urban setting, so it's nice to kind of show them in a mimicked natural environment in the actual wild, because these guys are very smart and they're unique in the fact that you can find them in urban environments as well as actual wild environments. These guys are very well adapted to their environments, and that's why they are found in the cities. They're unique in that way that they've actually benefited from humans being around. They get lots of food. These guys are very good scavengers, and so they will pretty much eat anything they come across. That's why when raccoons get into your garbage cans, it's mostly that they have such a good, keen sense of smell that if they smell food, they're very persistent. They will continue to try to get that food. And they've got the right equipment to do that. So you can kind of see her hands there. She's got 5 fingers, so not like us, that she can't really grab things with their hands, but they can use both hands to pick stuff up, and they are very dexterous. As you can see, she's kind of picking up her chow there. They're very skilled at that. And that's kind of why we give them these different devices, because they're super smart. So it's really a challenge every day to give them stuff that is enriching and actually makes them mentally stimulated. So they challenge us every day. We kind of have to really work at trying to outsmart them because they're very intelligent. We do try and give them enrichment multiple times a day and different things because they are just so smart and they get stuff just super quickly. So what she's kind of eating there, this is kind of a chow. They get some of this every day. There's also a couple bugs in there, mealworms. These guys are omnivores, so they will eat a very wide variety of food. Bugs are one of their favorites. I'm pretty sure bugs is pretty much why she was in that bag in the first place. In the wild, these guys would also eat like small rodents. They would eat like frogs, bugs. They would also eat fruit, nuts, seeds. So like I said, they're omnivores. They have a very wide, varied diet. So we can try and give them that there. You can kind of see throughout our exhibit, we do have some veggies and fruits that I gave them first thing this morning as a breakfast. They also had hard-boiled eggs. So in the wild, they will eat bird eggs as well if they come across them. And so we try and give them a very nice varied diet from our Wildlife Nutrition Center to give them everything that they really need. So they'll probably work at those bags for quite a while. We do have some other enrichment. Let me take one with me and we'll see if we can get her to come over to show another behavior. So you can see we've got a lot of platforms and stuff throughout our exhibit. A couple of the team really got together and made almost like a jungle gym for these guys that would help showcase their natural behaviors. One is that these guys can climb forward and backward. They're really skilled climbers. We have, like I said, that's Elora and Fergus. The third raccoon we have here is Micro. kind of see her up in the tree. She is a lot more shy than the other two, but she is showing you her skills at climbing right now. She will probably stay up there for the duration of this talk. Like I said, she's a little more shy than the other two. But once we leave, she'll come down. We've got some snacks saved for her later. So as you can see, they're kind of climbing around their exhibit. There's lots of moving platforms, and we're trying to make it so they'll use a lot of their different muscles. Like I said, these guys are very good climbers, and so this exhibit really allows them to show that behavior pretty much all the time. So these guys, as you can see, some of their distinguishing features is that they have that big mask on their face, so that is a very distinguishing raccoon behavior, plus those short little ears and kind of stocky little bodies. This is because if they had too many long limbs in the winter, they could get frostbite, so they've kind of evolved in such a way to make sure that they kind of keep everything nice and short so that they don't get frostbite. They also have that ring tail. So they usually have about 6 to 7 kind of browny, blacky, dark rings around their tail, so that's pretty distinguishing for them. In the wild, that would kind of help camouflage them in any grasses or bush. And then, like I said before, they kind of have those 5 fingers with some longer nails. These guys can crack open some pretty good stuff. That's why they'll eat seeds and nuts and stuff. And like short little stocky legs, just to, again, keep themselves tucked in. These guys, unlike grizzly bears, do not hibernate, but the raccoons found in more northern, cooler climates do tuck themselves in for winter. They will actually drop about 50% of their weight over winter. Not always that much, but if they choose not to come out, they won't come out and they will still survive that way. These guys do like to do what we call a raccoon pileup. In the wild, they would kind of dig themselves into a hollow log. That's their den of choice. So we do have a couple hollowed out logs mimicked here in the exhibit. The one on the far side is an actual log. We put a kind of a plexi on the top and side just so we can check them throughout the winter. And then we also have some kind of artificial houses that they can choose. Sometimes they'll change houses throughout the winter, so they get a little bit of choice there. These guys are kind of a mix of solitary and social. So that's why sometimes you'll find solitary raccoons in their own little territories, but in the winter, sometimes they'll just kind of come together in groups just to kind of, it's almost like huddling for warmth. So that's why these guys can be pretty social, but like I said before, Micro's up in the tree, so she's a little less social than Elora and Fergus. So kind of just a different preference depending on the personality of each raccoon. Elora and Fergus are very friendly, very keen, so that's why they'll always come out and say hi. They're having a nice little snack on their chow. Who's gonna come? So we're gonna see if they'll come over. I've got a couple other things to give them, kind of some variety for today. You guys gonna come? They're enjoying that chow right now. So you can see they're kind of standing on their legs. Like I said, they're really good climbers. So they can usually climb upwards, and then if they feel like they want to back down the tree, they'll do that too. You gonna come? They're going where the guaranteed food is. Come here. Like I said, we do have the 3 raccoons in here. We have a couple of things kind of built into the exhibit. One of the things on the side was, if you're here in the summer, you might see it. We have a belt feeder, so it's up on the top of one of the walls. So that's something that we set up for them last year, I believe. And so what it is it's actually a belt inside that box, and so we can put food all along the belt. And when we pull the belt back, it will literally slowly shift all the food forward, and it will drop into the exhibit. So this is nice because a lot of animals in the wild will spend a good chunk of their day foraging, and so we want to try and encourage that by not giving them all their food at once, since that's not very natural for them. So we want to try and encourage that. You. Gonna come? The nice thing about this exhibit is they have a lot of choice. They can kind of choose where they want to go and whether they want to participate or not. Come here, guys. Here you go. Come here. Here. Come here. Yeah. So I'm just going to set up this device here. This is a nice fun device one of the keepers made, and wanted to talk a little bit about maybe enrichment for your pets at home. So this is very nice. So this is something you could probably build at home with just some old bottles that you have and put some nice treats in it. And so it's really challenging. They really have to use their hands. They have to stand up if she chooses. I'm going to go on the other side, give her a chance to play with that a little bit. Oh, or not. Again, choice. If they don't want to do it now, they might do it a little bit later. They're still ripping up some bags of chow. So this is quite nice because they can actually, they have to stand up. It's this good height for them to stand up. They can spin it, but they can't, as I dump it all out. They have to spin it at just the right speed and kind of get it to drop the food out, and there's 4 bottles there. So that's something nice you can build for pets at home in order to enrich any pets that are kind of also in a little bit of self-isolation, and give them something to do, especially maybe in the winter months when it's colder. It's a good thing to give them inside. So that's something fun that we can enrich our own pets at home. So we're going to go see where they are. I think they're probably back to their bags of chow. They're really enjoying that. So in the wild, I'm going to talk a little bit about their predators and their wild habitats. So these guys will climb a lot of trees, like I said. They'll den in hollow logs, which is their choice of preference. Like I said, in the winter, in the northern climates, they will spend a lot of the winter in those logs. More raccoons found in more southern climates can stay up and awake all winter because it's a little bit warmer. So it really is an individual raccoon choice. At any point they can come out, since it's not a true hibernation. It's more they don't want to get cold, which I understand because lots of times I don't want to get cold either. So as you can see, he's kind of using hands to try and find the food. They do have a lot of sensory organs kind of in their hands. That's how, when their hands are in like murky water or rivers, that's how they can find the food. They'll actually sense it. They're very sensitive hands and they have very sensitive noses. And so that's why they can find their food in kind of darker places. They'll stick their hands right in somewhere and get it. And that's kind of how they figure out a lot of garbage cans. They're very dexterous with those hands. Ooh. Okay, we're going to see maybe now if they want to come play with the bottles. I think they finally finished a lot of their bag treats. They're saying hi. Like I said, Elora and Fergus are pretty friendly. Every time we come in here, they're super excited to get their food. They're very smart, so every time we come in here, we're giving them something for them to work at. So that's nice, and they seem to really enjoy that. Hey guys. And like I said before, they have pretty good sense of smell, so they know that there's still some chow left, so they want to hang out and try and get as much of the food as they possibly can. So yeah, like I was saying, in the wild, in their wild habitats, their main predators are actually mostly coyotes, also bobcats are another big predator of these guys, but in more urban environments, it is unfortunately humans. One of the biggest raccoon fatalities, especially in more urban environments, is actually vehicular accidents. So they're not really very good at crossing the road. But even despite that, they're still thriving in urban environments. Here they come. Very interested in the camera. I'm just going to scatter a little bit of food around still. I I did give them those paper bags. They're having fun ripping them up, and every time they open them, they're scattering their own food. So they're kind of self-enriching themselves. And it is their choice, so they don't have to participate in all the enrichment given, so they're choosing to stick with the bag they're having fun with. So maybe I'll answer a few questions while you guys are watching the raccoons. These guys actually do spend a fair chunk of the day sleeping, especially in the winter. I'm not sure the exact hours, but in the winter when you come, they very rarely poke their heads out. And these guys are nocturnal, so they're more active at night. So during the day, we do find them sleeping quite a bit. Yes, they do have a pretty decent set of teeth. This is because, like I said before, they're omnivores, so they will catch small rodents or eggs. They'll have to kind of break through the shell, so their teeth are pretty sharp. So these guys here kind of show their skills of wild raccoons. They are very smart, and this is why some people, a lot of people kind of consider them pests. So one of them, someone asked about the bear patch. So that is happened to be last winter. She, like I said, in the winter they will actually raccoon pileup, so they'll pile themselves into a log, one on top of the other. So she ended up with a little bit of a hot spot. So we treated it, but her fur just has not grown back yet. So their lifespan, someone asked about their lifespan. In the wild, they can live between 3 and 5 years. It's not very long, like I said, mostly due to vehicular accidents in more urban environments. But in captivity, we're actually finding they can live between 15 and 20 years. So they're quite long-lived in zoos, and probably mostly because either there's no predators here, and like I said, there's no humans and cars combination. And they're pretty happy here. Like I said, they'll bunker down in some of their dens. We've given them lots of den options, and they can kind of do lots of choice in here. It's a little difficult to tell some of them apart. Right now it's based on size. Males do tend to be larger than females, so that's kind of how you can tell Fergus and Elora apart, and Micro is actually even smaller than Elora. She also behavior-wise, so she's a little more shy than Elora and Fergus. So that's usually how you can tell her apart. So because these guys have such a sensitive sense of smell, they will chirp a little bit. They definitely will growl if they don't like something. So they can communicate with each other that way, but also a sense of smell. I'm not sure, I don't know if anybody's ever looked into whether their hearing or vision is better. Because these guys are nocturnal, probably both are pretty keen senses, and they definitely use both senses. So you can see as they're walking, you can actually hear her little nose working, so they have a really good sense of smell, and they'll use that to find a lot of their food. So I'm just putting some mealworms down there. Like I said, they're omnivores, so mealworms are one of their favorite things. Oh, see? She's choosing the bugs over the chow. So these three do live together all the time, which they really enjoy having all three in here during the winter because they definitely keep each other warm. But like I said, these guys are adapted to our winters, so they have really thick coats right now that help them keep them warm over the winter, as well as those body adaptations that make it so they don't get too cold. They can stick their noses into stuff. They'll definitely stick it into like holes and logs. Because they're so dexterous and they can use their hands to grab a lot of things, I think they'll sniff it out with their long snout first and then use their hands to reach in and grab stuff. Yes, these guys are not breeding raccoons, so we won't have any baby raccoons. They are neutered. So someone asked why they like getting into garbage. So like I said before, their senses are super good. They have a really keen sense of smell, and they are very, very persistent. So as soon as they smell anything good in your garbage, they will work until they get it. So one thing is these guys do tend to want to live around water. So we do have, like I said, a pool. I was trying to see if they would come over, but they were choosing not to today. And actually what they'll do is you can kind of see when they move their hands around on the ground. Initially, zoos thought that when we saw the raccoons in zoos, we thought they were kind of washing their food, but more research kind of went into it. And they actually are thinking that they are actually mimicking what their wild raccoons are doing by washing their fish and stuff. So like I said, they had those really good senses on their hands, and so they'll use that under murky water to try and sense out their food, to grab their food. So you can kind of see them doing that here on the land, but they'll also do that in the water. Bucket. So I'm going to end kind of my talk there. Thank you for joining us here at the Toronto Zoo. Remember to keep enrichment in mind, and remember to social distance. We'll see you guys when this is all over. Come and visit us, and you can come and visit Elora, Fergus and Micro. Thank you and have a good day.